works well. Next is I'm going to grab some tape. I do have these that are made out of like paper towel rolls. Otherwise, I do have some by my desk if you want. We do use a lot of tapes. These are nice because they're pretty portable. Is I want to tape this up as far as I can so it doesn't move around on me. Now, looking ahead, we are going to be making a half square knot, and we're going to add some beads on this. So if you already kind of notice on the side over here, no, you don't because I don't have the camera there, is I do have these free beads. And you want to typically use the cheaper looking ones that you don't think people use for their projects. You also want to make sure they do have like a little more of a larger opening. This one might be a little tricky to pass through, but if you wanted that for a project, you could absolutely do that. And then sometimes you might run into in the free beads, you might have one that might have, you know, some sort of a seed bead that's attached to it. So you can just kind of pull those off and then they're fine. So I have my beads that I can do for my project. And it says have our 1 inch for the loop. You know, that's what this is right here. So we're good. Next part, 1/2 inch square knots, solid color. So on this, you need to decide, you know, do I want a red solid or do I want this brown solid? I'm going to keep my core threads red this time. So I'm going to have my solid of this. So I'm going to tape this down. Now, a good way of taping, let me move this up so you can see a little better, is you tape this down once like this. You want to bend this over, and then you want to bend this back down again. This keeps this really nice and tight. Another thing is if you feel like this strand is too long for you to use, you can gently wrap it around your fingers until it's the length that you want. And then I have these containers of these elastics that when you bend this like this, you can grab one of those elastics. It's like a small rubber band for your hair. You know, go around 2 or 3 times. You don't have to have super tight because you do want to be able to take these off kind of easy. But this will make it easier to kind of pass this back and forth. Okay. So now I'm all set to do my first part because I also have a ruler right here ready to be able to measure it. So remember, rulers are also at the front of the classroom. So 1/2 inch square knot. So the way that we do the square knot is you have this 4 shape. See if you can see this. So I go up, and there's my 4. Notice that this is over top of this. I have that 4 shape, and then this goes over everything. I pick up the middle of this, so I pick up all 3 strands. It goes underneath, and you have this kind of a square end, like a half a square, down here. You pull this up, and part of your grade is that when you do these square knots, you shouldn't see any of the color of the core threads underneath it. And you do the same thing. So here's another 4. Again, you can see up. I'm going to take this end this time. So over everything. Let me slide it underneath all 3. And bring this up. When I get to the very top, I usually give it just a little bit of a push and try to make sure that goes up so you don't see that red core thread there at all. Do it again. It's a little faster this time. And you do this until you get to a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to throw this on time elapse real quick, and then you can see. Okay, so I have my 1/2 inch. I'm looking at here, I'm kind of measuring from that popsicle down. I don't really see the core threads too much in there, so I'm doing a good job. Now, if you notice, even on the picture of this, a half square knot becomes a spiral. Because you're just kind of tying the same knot over and over again, and they just kind of keep lining up along the same side. So you can kind of look along here at yours, and you can see the way that they stack. Okay, so looking at our sheet again, then we do a 1/2 inch of a bead. It doesn't mean that it's like a 1/2 inch, it's just you're throwing a bead on. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take these off. I might end up using them again, I might not. Just be aware, after the bead, it says half square of mixed colors. So that means when I take this bead, I have one of my ends of my red, and I'm going to take one of these, because next time I need to have a mixed color. And I need to pass these both through this. Now it doesn't matter which side. I'm going to pull the red like this. Take my tape again. Yes, we use a lot of tape. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit. Got one there, one there. And we continue the same thing. So I have my 4, and this part's going to go over, and then under all 3 again, nothing different. Pulling that up. And you can kind of adjust, where that kind of lines up at by just kind of pushing those off to the side like that. Do my 4 again. Remember, over top, pick all 3 up, go through that opening of the 4. It's nice if you have kind of longer fingernails for this one. Do your 4 again. And I want to keep going until I have a 1/2 inch of that one. Okay. So I'm going to switch over to time elapse. I'm going to do a 1/2 inch. I'm going to do a bead. I'm going to do another 1/2 inch of solid. And then we're going to do an empty space and then like a double knot. Okay. I wanted to zoom in a little bit so you can see this a little bit closer. So as you notice, as I start working on this, I do see that 1/2 square knots, if you do notice from the picture here as well, again, art gives you that spiral. But when you mix that color, you can see that this is the pattern you start getting. And this is where, for your final project, you need to decide if you like that and how you can plan for that kind of in the future. So right now you can see it's red, brown, red, brown, red, and you keep going down and see brown. So my next color should be, if I look at it on this side, should be a red. So it's always kind of flipping back and forth. So let me get this line back up again. Try to do this kind of small so you still can see. So there's my small 4. This is going over, and then you pick all of them up. You pull these tight along there. So you want to pay attention to this pattern, because if you screw up on it, the only way to fix it is by untying everything before it. So you want to catch these before you kind of screw things up. So right now I'm already at my 1/2 inch. So now I get to switch over to my my bead again. So I'm going to take the bottom off. I'm going to get another bead on there. And this time I have to go back to a solid color. Now if you're doing a project, just like on your other ones, it does have to be symmetrical. But for practice, for this one, even though this is brown up here, I'm going to make a solid red down there. But for your project, you would have to keep it symmetrical. Oh. So which means that if I want this solid red, my core threads have to be brown. So I'm going to take that elastic off. And you do want to kind of keep switching threads a lot, because if you keep tying with the same ones over and over again, you're going to run out of thread, and you're going to have like a lot of another side of another color. So this is all set there. I'm going to tape it down. You can't see it, but I'm taping it down the other end. And now I'm going to do a solid red. So again, here's my 4. Pick it up, it goes over, under, through. First one's always kind of weird. It is kind of preferable, as you kind of notice when you start putting these beads on, that switching cores, you know, when you switch beads, it doesn't always work as well because it always kind of slips a little bit, but it doesn't mean you can't. It's just sometimes a little tricky. So that should be secure. So I'm going to do another 1/2 inch. And I am at 1/4 inch right now. Okay, so now I have this all done. So I'm all set for this. Now something that I am going to be changing is that we're not actually going to end this. We're going to do this one, and then we're gonna end it. Okay, so we'll save some hemp. So I'm going to switch over now to the square knot. And it says a loop. We're not going to worry about that, but I'm probably going to throw another bead on just so I know that I'm kind of switching to something different. Looking at the top up here, it does say solid color first. So I'm actually going to switch to a new solid color. So I'm going to take all the tape off again. And so I want a solid brown. So the red is going to go through and become my core threads. And I'll use this heart bead as my new one. So the reds are going to be core, and the brown is going to be the travelers, the ones you tie your knots with. Okay, now that I have this all set, we're going to do the exact same thing we did with the half square knot. We're just going to add one more knot with it to make it a full square knot. So I'm going to be taking this, so here's my 4, okay? I'm going to take my other end, make sure that, again, it goes over, you know, under and through, but this time on this one, I tied a knot, because this is going to be our full-time traveler. So this is always going to be going through a 4. So I'm going to go, so I went over this one, and I'm going to go under and then through, and there's my half square knot right there. Now this time, the traveler's on my left, so I have to make another 4 with this strand, but you do not want to do this. You want to do a backwards 4. Okay, so here's your backwards 4. Then I'm going to go over, and then under all 3 again, and then through that opening. This creates like a counter to your spiral, like that. That makes it a flat braid. So if you look really closely, you know, at the photos here, it becomes a flat braid, okay? So I'm gonna do that again. Again, my travelers now is on my right side. So I just do a normal 4, and it's over, under, through. Pull a little tight, push up a little bit, backwards 4, over that right there, and then under all 3. And I just keep doing that. So the traveler, the one that you tie that knot onto, is the one that's always going through a 4. Is it a backwards 4 like it is right now, or is it just gonna have a normal 4? Now, according to my sheet, again, I need to go down a 1/2 inch, so I'm not quite there yet. Trying to keep these as even as I can. And I am now at 1/2 inch. Next thing is add a bead and then mix color. So let me undo my taping. Mix color this time. So again, I'm going to take these 2 colors right here. It doesn't matter which ones you grab. I'm not going to grab the one that has a knot on it just because I don't have to untie it. And I'm going to put another bead on. These will come by core threads, so I'm going to tape these down. Okay, that's all set. Still have my knot on this side, which means I'm going to start with a backwards 4. Again, it goes over, under all 3, through that opening. And just like the other one, it just takes a little work to get that wrapped around that bead there. There we go. Knot is on this side, so regular 4. So I'll get my traveler, go over, under, through. Backwards 4. Again, over, under, and then through. This is where you kind of have an interesting design. Now if I flip it over, on this side, the core, I mean, it's not a core thread, but the inside of this flat braid is brown, and on this side it's red. So that's when you also kind of think about your design. If you want to have it red here, then you should do what I'm doing, where you have a top of your bracelet instead of a bottom if you wanted that, and just make sure that this is your traveler. If you wanted the opposite of that, and you have everything lined up how you want it on this one, you can turn your red into the traveler, and you should have the opposite effect. Okay, backwards 4, there's over that strand, under through. Going for my 1/2 square. Sorry, going through my flat braid, and again 1/2 inch, not 1/2 square, 1/2 inch. Okay, so I got that part. And then it says in the packet, mix color, bead, solid color again, and then we're actually gonna finish this up this time. So, take these off. So solid color. So it doesn't matter if you have it red or brown. You know, you can kind of look at the length of your strands. If all of a sudden you're getting really short on that, you know, just choose the ones that are the shortest as your core, because you have a lot of room to be tying your knots with the other ones. I think I'm going to do a red one. So which means that my brown is my core. Because when you tie the knots, you see those. Try that again. Okay, I do have my knot on this time, so I can untie it or I can just cut it off. Okay. Okay, that's up all the way. Okay, solid color. Okay, I have to tie a knot. Doesn't matter which one at all because it's solid on both sides. So I'm just gonna grab an end. This is my full-time traveler. Here's my 4. Again, I go over, then under through. Yeah. So that's good. So next step is we're going to get to this 1/4 inch empty space and then a double knot 1/4 inch again. And those measurements are a little flexible, but this is how you typically end it. And then we also have to take care of our top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these strands and I'm going to cut this over here so it's a little bit easier for me to work with. Okay, so I am going to cut probably out here. Looks like I would say about 5 inches. Plenty of space to be able to kind of finish this off. Now with all of your extra, I would like anything that is a yardstick, large stick, length long. This is way too small, so we'll just throw this away because it's just scrap. This right here is that we're just going to do a regular knot. So remember, regular knots are just bring this up, around, and it goes through that opening. Now when you tie the knot and you finish it, I want you to leave a gap about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. Gonna kind of pull these up individually. So I have this gap right here, and that's really important because I want to see if I can make one more knot, because this knot becomes your clasp, kind of like a toggle clasp. Definitely give yourself at least 6 inches on this so you can tie this knot easier. If you go a little more than that, you can probably still do it, but it gets a lot harder. So you want the knot in the knot. You don't want like 2 knots right next to each other where they're separate, but they want to become one knot. Sorry about that. So now this is a double knot because they're just inside of each other. Pull it as tight as you possibly can, and then cut off that tail a little bit. It's okay to have a little bit left over. And again, pull these kind of individually. And you should be good. We used to super glue these, but they got kind of hard and scratchy, so we stopped super gluing them. Okay, so I'm gonna take off my piece down here. Hang on to your popsicle stick. But the way that we finish this top part off, there's a couple ways. The way that I usually do is I'm gonna separate these. I want to keep one of them. So if you want to keep both, then you could just leave it, and it should be fine, because this would go through the end like this, and then you can see that it becomes that clasp. I like to just have one. So what I do is I separate both of them, and I just tie a knot. So I have them both separated, and I'm just going to tie a knot. Again, keeping that super tight. Do that one more time. And then whichever one is longest, I'm going to keep as my end. And the shorter one, I could leave it, or I can go in and just trim it up a little bit, and it'll be fine. So then this slips in, and because you have that empty space right here, it fits there and it holds us nice and tight. Okay, so you're going to practice that. I mean, this is way too small. I mean, My daughter might be able to wear this, but this is way too small. And it's just a practice piece. It's not really supposed to be anything because it's not symmetrical. I'm using really crappy beads for it. But it's just to get the point across on how to do this part of the project, okay? So good luck on that. Again, let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we will move on to your next one, which are the pickets, after you're done with that. Thanks.